Okay guys, this is a 7-minute video. I'm going to be talking about your assignment that we're going to be spending the next couple weeks on. I'm going to talk about Romare Bearden. That's your sort of inspiration for this assignment. And then I'm going to show you some tips on making your collage. Your collage is basically the plate that we're going to use to print our Collograph. Remember that when you come back to class on September 14th, that's next week, I want you to have this collographic plate finished. So ideally, you'll have made your collage and be ready to print on September 14th. And that's when I'll show you the printing press and how to print your collage. But first, let's talk about Romare Bearden. He's the inspiration for this assignment. Romare Bearden is an American artist born in 1911 and died in 1988. He grew up in the South, but worked mostly in New York. He was in the Army in World War II, studied art in Paris in the 1950s, and then came to New York City in the 1960s and studied at NYU. He's really thought of as the, like a forefather of the Harlem Renaissance. A Collograph came out of those collage works. He was doing paintings that had collage, works on paper that were collage, and then when he started printing them, the Collograph really sort of took hold for him. And if you look at these Collographs, I just think they're so beautiful. They're really kind of, they seem so sort of fast and inspired, and to me they really embody that idea of kind of the cityscape, the landscape kind of coming together. One of the most beautiful things about collographs, and this is evident in all of Romare Bearden's collographs, and it'll be evident in your collographs as well. When you ink the plate, you're gonna have these crevices in the plate that are too deep for the paper, even though the paper is, we're using wet paper, it's really soaking in, we're using the press to really press that paper into the plate. There's gonna be places in your plate where the sort of depth is too deep for the paper to come in, and that's where you get this halo of white around some of your forms. And that's really the, the look of a collograph that you can always identify a collograph because of that sort of white halo. And Romare Bearden, I feel like, uses it to really beautiful effect. Your assignment sheet is up now on Blackboard, and I suggest you can always come back to it. You can always look at it if you have any questions about the size of the paper, the size of the plate, how many you need. Anything like that is always answered on the assignment sheets on Blackboard. The one thing to notice about your assignment sheet that's very important in this first assignment is that I've changed the size of your chipboard. Don't worry if you've already started on your collage. I can help you cut it down, or you can just have a bigger collage when you come into class. But for those of you that have not started yet, your size is now 9 by 12. That's the size I decided on for the collage. It's 9 by 12. And yeah, there's other important information on your assignment sheet. The theme for this assignment that I want you to think about is your city. I want you to think about Romare Bearden representing Harlem, the Harlem Renaissance in his collages, thinking about that idea of the collage representing this coming together of cultures. I want you to think about your city. It doesn't have to be New York. It could be the city you came from. It could be a fantasy city, a city in the future, a city in the past. I just want you to represent something that could be your city. Is it a busy place? Is it a peaceful place? Is it a fantasy place? What is your how can you represent your city in this collage? Many of you might be coming back to New York after being away from a while. Sometimes that can be overwhelming. So think about what the city means to you. It doesn't have to be New York. It could be anywhere. But think about what sort of the title of your piece. Think about should be my city. Okay, now we're going to talk about how to make the collage. A few tips on making the collage. You're going to start out with your chipboard, your glue and a brush. could be Elmer's glue, could be matte medium, you know, anything that'll stick your collage material down onto your cardboard. And then you just want a bunch of materials for collage. String, sandpaper is really great, tape, cardboard, tinfoil, saran wrap. You want a real variety of things that are sort of scratchy, things that have a lot of texture, and then things that are sort of slick, things that have like a plasticky texture. Don't think too much about darks and lights at this point. Think about things that will hold the ink, like sandpaper, and things that the ink will brush off of, like tinfoil or saran wrap. And then the most important thing is that everything you have is thin. The rule of thumb is it's got to be thinner than a nickel. Your plate is going to be 9 by 12. I changed that slightly from what I originally told you. So I'm cutting down my, my cardboard to 9 by 12. I know some of you had trouble getting the kit this week. So I'm showing you how to do it just on this piece of cardboard. It was just like a, you know, from like a case of soda or something. That's the kind of cardboard I'm using. But you know, the thing in your kit works really well. If you don't have that yet, any kind of cardboard will work. Something that's really thin and hard is best. Cardboard that's corrugated will give you, you know, that corrugated texture. So I'm using this really flat cardboard that was from a can of soda. And then the next step is just to start cutting up a bunch of stuff for your collage material. My collage is going to be about the city, and so I'm cutting all these squares out of it that are going to be my buildings and stuff. Cutting everything up. You can kind of lay it out on your you know, before you even glue it down, just sort of lay everything out and look at it, see what it's going to look like. And then when I'm happy with it, I'm actually going to start to glue it down. My glue was really thick, so I watered it down a little bit. I'm just using Elmer's wood glue, but Elmer's glue works really well too. So I'm just painting everything and gluing it all down to my collage. I'm thinking about my cityscape as sort of a water cityscape, like looking at the East River at Hudson or something. So I'm thinking a lot in my collage about that reflection between the city and the sky. Gluing everything down. It doesn't really matter, like sometimes I glue the cardboard down sort of like upside down so I get that slightly more slick side, and that'll give me a little differentiation between kind of the texture of the cardboard. I'm really not thinking about color right now, of course. You know, everything's going to be in black and white, but I'm not even really thinking about darks and lights yet. There's going to be so much variation in how I ink this that I can really leave a lot of that decisions about darks and lights to how I'm going to ink the plate in the end. Really, I'm just thinking about trying to variate my my texture. Some things are really slick, some things are sort of scratchy that will hold ink, and that's the only thing that I'm thinking about. That sandpaper is going to hold ink really nicely. And I did something that that you know, you guys don't have to do, but I took this photograph actually. I printed out from my computer, and I actually like cut out this little, it's sort of like this boat shape. I cut that out just from like something I printed out from the computer, and that's going to be sort of, I don't know, that's going to be in my collage as well. I'm taking this saran wrap and I'm going to put that on part of the collage. The saran wrap will be nice and slick and the ink will wash away from it really easily, so I'm going to use that as kind of like my water shape. Pasting it on, and I'm going to put my like ship shape kind of on top of that. You know, making sure to use a lot of glue, and I would recommend when you have it all kind of where you want it, I would recommend actually putting a book on top of it. You could even put a piece of saran wrap over it so it doesn't, you know, stick to the book, but I would recommend putting a book on top of it for, I don't know, a couple hours or something while it flattens out. And then when it's ready, you know, I left mine in there for a couple hours, it should be really, nice and thin, nothing sticking out of it, nothing sticking off of it. Thinking of rubbing this whole thing with ink, I don't want anything sort of like fraying and hanging off of it. And everything should be glued down, really well. You might consider at this stage to paint glue over anything that's kind of loose or hanging off. Like if you have some string or something that's hanging off, you might consider painting glue over the whole surface at this stage. But that's basically it.